it's been, it's been an honor for the last 9 years to be working with corn farmers in the regard of leadership through our corn marketing program and then working up through the national. And so, yeah, yes, one of the topics we're going to touch on is trade. And that was some of my early leadership experience with national corn growers was with the trade and biotech action team was the title at that time. And really pleased that during my 4 years of that team, we took excuse me, an elevated trade to a level side by side with biotech. Both are near and dear issues to corn farmers, and very much appreciated having a great team that saw the value and us taking trade on as a higher priority within the national as well. It's privileged to be here with you. As Greg referenced, known Greg quite a while and got to share some common interest in some of the programmatic activity that Ohio had going, and it was great to see that Kansas picked up on some of that. It's that type of collaboration that makes us really effective when we seek to work on your behalf the best way possible. So the Kansas Corn has just been a tremendous relationship with national, great partners, and we have a lot of leadership that comes out of Kansas, as you noticed. The comments, and many of you may already know Dennis McNitch being on the board with myself. So I do take my lead from my board, and also we take our lead from our grower leaderships from the state. So it's a key process to get there. And to share with you, we just went through a policy and priority session with all the states. And obviously demand is going to always be one of the top priorities. At national, we work in different modes to manage demand issues and advance our priorities in demand. And we restructured some of our action teams a bit, but market development action team works specifically for corn demand in all the relationships through the value chain that corn has, and that includes livestock and ethanol as primaries, as you would guess. But we also have the specific team of the ethanol action team, which takes on that particular segment of demand for corn, because it has its own little nuances that you're very privy to in the news. We see it all the time. And, the newest news release that we just had, we had partnership with the other associations, including the ethanol associations outside of corn, in an effort to get the court to finally give us the inappropriately wavered 500 million gallons of ethanol that was clear back. And I forget whether it actually started in 2017 or 2018. But they finally came to a decision today based on our activity. They didn't say they were going to take on the obligation as a court to make sure the DPA actually blended that 500,000 gallons or 500 million gallons, 500 million, sorry. But they did put some accountability in there, which would have been nice to have the first time around, but every 60 days, EPA has to check in with the court and tell the court, answer to the court on what activity they're taking to get those gallons blended back into the fuel system, which, that is a win. It's not exactly what we look for, but that's the type of advocacy that we do on your behalf every day. And you probably wouldn't even have an idea that it's going on, but it's happening. And we have a lot of great folks working in that arena. Also with us today is Gary Porter, as was mentioned, our board liaison to your state of Kansas. And it's just a further step. If Dennis McNitch from Kansas wasn't on our board, we wouldn't have a direct line of communication for your leaders in your state back to the board. So we assign board liaisons to states. And so Gary Porter joined us as well. May, at the end of my presentation, just let him say a few words. He's on our ethanol action team also as the board liaison to that. So as I go through that presentation, you can rest assured that if you have any questions at the end, I've got one of our experts here, actually two, right? Dennis McNitch and Gary Porter with me. So we're all glad to be here, and thank you. So you can go to the next slide now if you'd like. So, it's not always something that you do, but I decided that, I needed a theme. We've got a lot of different unknowns out there in our industry right now. And certainly we started off last year with maybe a little more positive look, getting the China phase one, getting USMCA, and having a commodity classic that had record attendance. Just started off really good until the pandemic hit. So, once we got into the pandemic, the unknowns just kept cropping up. We just really didn't know where our trade would land, where our demand would land because of the miles driven going down. So the blending of ethanol went down, which you were feeling on your farms as the market declined because of the lack of demand for liquid fuels. So I decided my theme was to leave no stone unturned, because we really need to look every place we can for the opportunities for our corn farmers to recover and grow out of this pandemic. And so that's our board focus. That's the one I've charged myself with and the board. And rest assured, I'm a farmer. My brother reminds me every day, what's with the questions. So, what's going on and why this? And then he'll point out the things that are keep me attached to the farm very closely to know exactly what risks are coming and what opportunities are out there. So we do a lot of feedback well in our family, just working very closely. And as Greg mentioned, my wife's part of the operation. So there isn't a meal time that goes by that we don't have some conversation around that, or a trip down the road that we're not facing the issues just as you do with your family. So, really appreciate the opportunity to maybe reach out to you a little bit. And I would assume most of you are members of Kansas Corn, but if any of you that aren't, it's a great opportunity for, as we advocate for you, to bring you with us. So, go ahead and consider that membership, or at least sign up for information. So when we do have a call to action and we need to have you come with us when we talk to a member of Congress, you can hit send on that email, and we can do a better job together. And together we can roll over more stones. I can only do one at a time, but together we can move mountains of corn, and that's really what we're about. So if you would go ahead and roll to the next slide. So as I mentioned, the one thing that you'll see on that slide about the Next Generation Fuels Act, we talked about USMCA and China phase one, but the Next Generation Fuels Act has been an effort that we've been pursuing for almost 2 years to really get in front of Congress and highlight the value of ethanol in the liquid fuels market. USDA had published a study that placed corn ethanol, the renewable ethanol, as emitting 43% less greenhouse gas emissions than the liquid fuel it's blended with. Well, that's really near and dear to us, because today in the new administration, climate is such a conversation. So we need those kind of tools to enter the opportunity to have those conversations with our members of Congress, and they have to really know that we do care about what we do, and I know farmers do. Sustainability and everything we do that's environmentally friendly actually brings a reward to our bottom line. So it's so easy to share what innovation and technology farmers have used. And the Next Generation Fuels Act helps us to showcase that. But more than that, it actually allows us to take the cap off, if you will, on the amount of liquid corn ethanol that goes in as the oxygenate into the liquid fuels market, which provides the opportunity for the automakers to use lighter engines, higher horsepower for weight. The cars are lighter, they get better mileage. And so the compound of the impact to the environment is a self-fulfilling prophecy in that. But not only that, for you and I, grinds more corn and produces such a stable environment for our rural economies. That's important to you and I as well, because Edison, the little town of Edison, is very small, and we have no filling stations, we have no schools, we have no business. We do have one little diner, but it is next to and adjacent to a little larger village. And so the rural economy, I get, we're fortunate to have a hospital. I hope all of you are too, but those are the kind of things that are impactful that we need to make sure that our members of Congress realize what value to the rural economy it brings to not only us, but our family and our friends. So, when we look at last year, as the slide suggests, looking in hindsight, we didn't know where we were going to land, but certainly Congress felt like there was a need to make sure that agriculture and the food industry was well supported. And fortunately, we receive CFAP payments, but then the market come along, and what a nice surprise to have the China phase one deal actually produce results in the marketplace. And for China to end up being the number one purchaser of corn, I don't think I could have guessed that out of the activity the first of the year. But as you look at China and how they're trying to rebuild their livestock because they need that meat protein for their folks, we should have seen it coming, and we did, and that's why the phase one deal. But to see them be the number one buyer of corn was just such a wonderful thing to have happen. We're glad we put a few things in place. We have really good relationships with USTR and U.S. Grains Council to be able to advance these type of trade agreements, and so that's a big part of what we do going forward. And yeah, if you go to the next slide, please. So we look forward to what opportunities there are in 21. Coming up as a virtual commodity classic. I mentioned at the beginning of the year we had the largest attendance, set a record attendance in March of last year with the commodity classic. This year virtual. We're meeting virtual. We're resilient. Farmers do like innovation. They do like technology. I'm not sure this is kind of what we had in mind when we committed ourselves to technology, but this is what we make happen. For me, it's kind of an advantage at a few times because I can be in multiple states on the same day without boarding a plane or getting in my vehicle. So there are benefits, and I think for you and I there are too. And as we move into the opportunity to sign up for Commodity Classic, I think you're going to see a venue that really shines well. You're going to see some opportunities for some networking there that we've not seen before. And so let's take full advantage of that and hopefully connect ourselves in that venue really solidly. And when we get back to meeting in person in 2022, I'd really look forward to you tapping me on the shoulder and say, hey, we visited virtually at our last annual meeting. Introduce yourself and let's have a conversation in person because we're really looking forward to that. But, as I mentioned, the Next Generation Fuels Act, we're getting ready to reintroduce that into Congress. Representative Sherry Bustos from Illinois introduced it in the previous. We knew it wouldn't get too far in an election year, but, to get it reintroduced and get co-sponsors with it, it's a great place to showcase agriculture. So like I said, if we get an opportunity to reach out in your inbox and suggest that you send a communication that we've helped you craft in regards to that, it's really important to have you with us on that. But, we also endeavored in a recovery plan for our markets, and we tapped our value chain in bringing that to close. That process was really good. I'll share with you one of the interesting side effects of tapping our value chain in that and having the ethanol and the pork and the beef and the ethanol and the dairy with us was soon to be, if we're assuming when Congress ratifies Tom Vilsack as our Ag Secretary. Tom Vilsack worked on that with us. He was part of our process and that. So, we've never really lost contact, and it's a really great place to hit the ground running with a Secretary of Agriculture that fully understands what corn's value chain looks like and how we all work together to try to hit those points for next 3 to 5 years, find some stability in our marketplace. So rest assured, it's really kind of rewarding to see folks that we already know and already know us and understand our issues and can actually visualize our priorities before we ever get to sit down and talk with them. That was a win for us as farmers, as well as making us really effective as leadership for you all as well. And Kansas can take advantage of that just as quick as we can, because he gets that. So a little more on that process. If we go to the next slide. So this is what really come out of that effort. You know, looking at demand solutions and the next 60 months, and actually beyond 60 months. You know, we need that certainty. We need stability in our demand markets, and that's what we're really looking for. Try to take those swings out of demand that, as pandemic revealed to us, could happen very quickly. One theme that really come out of every one of the partners that worked on this plan with us, they all said, you know, corn's sustainability story is so critical to their success going forward. As we try to connect our livestock products, our meats, our meat proteins into the marketplace, and it doesn't really matter whether it's domestically or internationally. Sustainability is one of the key factors for which consumers like to know. Our farm farmers as doing everything they can to be sustainable, so that when we feed corn into our livestock to produce our meat protein, we can feel good that every step of the way we're eating food that's sustainably produced. And the answer to that is yes, but just crafting that story in the proper light and putting it together so that everyone can connect all the pieces so they understand where we are, you know, it really shouldn't have to be too difficult. And that's what those folks had challenged us to do, is get it right. And we've been working on that for a couple of years now, trying to figure out what's the best way to position a corn farmer as being a sustainable producer for the world marketplace. And it means a lot to our foreign markets as well, because somewhere while we're sleeping, there's a purchaser of corn and corn products in a foreign nation looking to say, where am I going to buy? And, you know, they have choices, maybe not as many right at this moment, but most years, you know, it's a competitive market. We seem to be the favored supplier right now, but we know that's not true every year. But those foreign buyers are thinking, you know, do I want US corn, or do I want it from South America? Do I want it from Ukraine? And they're thinking, you know, is this fit what my consumers want? Is it sustainably produced? And I think we can win that hands down. So that's the kind of thing that we're doing in that regard. So if you go to the next slide, please. You know, one of our other programs has been the DC reputation. We really look at our consumers in that same context of, you know, what do they expect to see when they see corn? And corn is so, you know, it's an icon. And, you know, not to be inappropriate here, but I'll say, you know, John Deere is an icon that's known internationally. Well, corn is just a big an icon. And so placing us in the right place and getting in front of those decision makers is so very important to all of us. And that's one of our large efforts too. So we really have a lot of programs in the backdrop here for you. But this one takes place obviously in DC. There's actually a garden there that corn is growing, so we can have great conversations there. But these building billboards, if you will, are targeted toward those in transit as they move around the city. And these are the decision makers that we're targeting, and looking very, very consciously at how to raise questions and drive them into other platforms for which we can have the dialogues that we need to have. And so this is a big effort. And one of your own Kansas, Lowell Neitzel, agreed to lead the member and consumer engagement action team, for which this DC reputation program is housed under. And Lowell, I'm sure when we get into questions, I'd be glad to answer any that maybe escape me as well. But, you know, as we look at the demand opportunities that corn has, you know, we're talking about how do we package ourselves to go with that demand so that people recognize that corn farmers aren't the enemy. They're the friend. They're not the enemy of the climate. They're actually sustainably producing their products. And so one of the things that I want you to think about is, as we take a look at leaving no stone unturned when it comes to new markets, it's essential. And a few of those lesser known opportunities that we have that I like to share with you for demand as well. Re-engaging in the trade agreements with Southeast Asia is one of the many regions of the globe that fits our vision at NCGA so well. Our vision is sustainably feed and fuel a growing world. 702 million people in Southeast Asia, with a growing middle class that is hungry for meat protein that's fed efficiently by U.S. corn. What a great fit for us. And we can also supply DDGs into that market. So another opportunity with our co-products of ethanol. But they also, corn ethanol can help us create the needed confluence of emerging the solution for their desire for renewable energy for their clean transportation fuels markets. Such a key place to focus, and we have a great relationship with USTR and all the administrations in the past. And I'll share with you, we're really hopeful that excuse me, Catherine Tai gets appointed to that position of U.S. Trade Representative, because Catherine Tai worked very diligently on our behalf in the USMCA. And so with her focus at helping negotiating that agreement through our Congress, we're confident that she can do us a lot of good in the world stage going forward. So we're looking forward to those opportunities that she can bring. So we're really hopeful that she'll be there as well. And she really gets trade issues with China. And so as we advance there, we could have a really great representative in that space as well. But both as a corn farmer and the president of NCGA, I can say confidently the U.S. corn farmers are well positioned to meet the global demand we know exists. Corn and corn products support nearly 1/3 of American farmers' revenue. Our ability to sell U.S. production to meet the foreign demand is hugely important to our industry and our rural America.